something becomes real after you feel it. If there's a feeling that comes to a person, maybe from a thought or that feeling makes that thought real to a person. You know what I mean? It makes that thought real to a person. And after that thought becomes real to a person, the imagination is going to start. What's going on, man? What's good? Between me and you, just to keep it real, winter, it ain't my cup of tea. I like tea though, but just not winter. I just don't like winter. Me and winter, especially when you're living in the mountains. You know, the view is insane. Yeah, cool. You know, like. Hello, hey, yo. Anyway, now I'm going on with that. This is the part 2, the reload, continuation of what I was talking about in the previous week, because I was so much in a rush and a lot has happened so far. A lot has happened. Anyway, look, the situation is that your heart is how you perceive things. You translate information from the imagination that's in your heart. And a person's imagination is how they view life. The way a person's imagination regulates thought is a direct translation of how their emotions operate. So, for example, if a person lives in a reality of being a victim for so long, and their emotions begin to identify with that way of thinking. Now, every thought that comes through, everything that they translate, they're going to translate it out of the filter of the imagination of being a victim, because being a victim is what their emotions relate with. You get what I'm talking about? So the minute a person's emotions relate with a particular way of thinking, that's how their imagination is going to operate out of, because that's what's real to them. Something becomes real after you feel it. If there's a feeling that comes to a person, maybe from a thought or that feeling makes that thought real to a person. You know what I mean? It makes that thought real to a person. And after that thought becomes real to a person, the imagination is going to start operating around that. Now, hence, I was getting to a point of, as I was speaking previously, that you feed your heart through your thoughts, and the minute your heart, which is your imagination, catches it, it interlinks with your emotions, and then the emotions give the imagination that comes forth from your heart life. And since it has given it life by putting emotions from the soul to that imagination, and that imagination becomes a reality because it regulates a certain feeling that comes from your soul. So now that imagination becomes real. It's a reality now, right? What you feed your mind, your heart catches. And feed your mind enough of the same content and your imagination catches it. The soul relates with that imagination with feelings to it. That imagination becomes real. So from that point of view, you're going to start filtering everything from that reality of it. So if a person has been a victim for so long, and that victim mentality becomes a reality to them, everything they see or experience, they're going to translate it from their heart as them being a victim. You know what I mean? And there are certain realities as a species that a person needs to disconnect from. And the only way to disconnect from a particular reality, which is in your imagination, that translates into emotion in your soul and becomes real to a person, the only way to disconnect from particular realities is by finding a substitute of that reality. If a person continuously looks at, for example, let's say maybe I like the way sad stories make me feel. The minute emotion is involved, it's easy to change a person's perceptions, because the emotions is like a trigger. An emotion is a trigger of life. It triggers life. It triggers a reality. Like if I subconsciously like sad stories because I like how they make me feel. They complement a particular characteristic, for example, and I continue watching sad stories for 5 years, let's say. Everything I do, every form of entertainment, every form of content is about heartbreaks, it's about sadness, it's about every information that I acquire through my five senses, my smelling, my seeing, my ears, my nose, my tongue, my taste, I'm going to translate it into sadness because that's how my heart imagines things. My heart imagines things from a point of sadness because a person's feelings of sadness has begun to identify with that reality of sadness that is in the imagination. The minute that imagination gets put into place, everything is going to be translated like that. So the heart is the perception of a person. And the way a person translates things, you can actually identify the regulation of their emotion. You can identify like, nah, this person is a happy person from how they translate information. Or you can identify this person is a lustful person on how they translate information. You know, we could see the same thing, but if our hearts are not operating from the same reality, we are going to translate that thing differently. You get what I'm talking about? So hence now it's coming back to substitute a current reality, there has to be an enticement of a greater reality or a greater joy. And the minute a person is obviously driven by their senses, they're going to go to places where it brings them more pleasure, and they're going to allow that to substitute the current imagination inside. Sometimes there's certain things, there's certain feelings that a person is looking for, maybe feeling of fulfillment. And since I'm searching for a feeling of fulfillment and I watch sad stories and they give me that feeling of fulfillment and they change the way I perceive things, and now my life is going to replicate that sadness that's in my heart, because now everything I do is to replicate my imagination. If I listen to a certain particular type of song over and over and over and over and over and over, and I want to live like the description, the song, like the image the song is painting in my mind, because I like the feeling I get from that song, my imagination is going to start perceiving and translating everything out of the image that song is painting. And I'm going to start regulating my life from the perception of my heart to actually acquire that experience, because that experience is already real to me in my imagination, because the feeling of fulfillment has already clicked with that reality. Now, with that being said, look, all these imaginations, all these realities, all these, they keep a person chained and enslaved.